Welcome everyone. Today we are ranking all of my movies that I saw in 2023. Now I am excluding movies that I have seen before. These are just films that were first time watches for me. I watched 95-ish movies last year, and ranking all of those with a lot of my favorites would have been quite skewed, so I decided to just do movies that I saw for the first time. Before we get started, I wanted to ask you all to please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I only have about 1 to 2% of my viewers who are subscribed to me, and I would love to up that number this year. So please hit that subscribe button. But we have 52 movies to go through today, and we are going to be going ranked from lowest to highest. As you can see, I've got my list here, my ranking, my tier, and we have S tier all the way down to F tier, and then we have our special category today, which is Tasty Trash. And those are movies that I personally enjoyed, but I think that as a movie, it is not a very well-made movie. So we are going to start down here in the F tier. We'll probably get to most of our Tasty Trash films pretty quickly, and then quickly move up to S tier. All right, the first movie in our F tier is the 1988 version, I believe, of Peter Pan. This is a film that is, it is not the Disney version of Peter Pan, and it is extremely boring. It is just a pain to sit through, a pain to watch, and that is why it gets F tier. It's only an hour, but it feels closer to 2. The other movie in our F tier, if you've been following me for a while, is Journey to Bethlehem, and anyone who's following me knows that I did not like that movie. I was not a fan of how it treated the Christmas story, and so it goes straight into F tier for me. But luckily those are the only 2 films in our F tier today, and with that, we're going to be jumping into our D tier films. Starting off at the bottom of that list is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and that film was just incredibly boring. It was not a fun movie to sit through and have to watch. It was a very long and boring film. Moving on, we have The Flash. And The Flash, while it would normally go in D tier, is actually going to go in Tasty Trash. I know a lot of people did not like the film, and I can objectively agree that I don't think it was a well-made film. But I enjoyed watching The Flash and a lot of the things that the director did with that film. And so it goes in the Tasty Trash category for me, where it's something I might put on to watch in the future, but objectively I don't consider it a good movie. Similarly, the B movie, I would also put that in Tasty Trash. This film has been memed on and laughed at for years, and I finally sat down and watched it in 2023, and it is definitely a movie to meme on. It's not a great film in my opinion, but it is fun and tasty trash to watch. And then we have The Whale by Darren Aronofsky, and that film does rank higher than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I think it's a well-made movie. But in my opinion, the issue I have with The Whale is that a film that chooses to show extremely dark and sad material must also, at some point, explore hope and have some hope in it. And for me, the amount of darkness that The Whale showed and the despair that it showed was not, I didn't have enough hope at the end of it to warrant it getting a higher review, so it gets put in the D category for me. Now we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and that will also be going in Tasty Trash for me, where it is a movie that I laughed while I was watching it. I watched it with my sister in theaters. It was very funny. But it's not a good movie by any means. All right, now we move into our C tier. We're moving into some of these other C tier films. Starting off we have Cinema Paradiso. This is an Italian film. It came highly recommended to me. And if the film had only had the first two parts in it, it would be probably an A tier film. But because of the way that the final act and the third part of the film is, it really lost me and it fell apart. And I think it would have been better served if it had just cut off at the hour and 50-minute mark, I believe. And that would have easily punched it up 2 levels. But because of the last act, it's cut down significantly. Now we have My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. And that goes above Cinema Paradiso. And it is a movie I don't consider it as good as it's not as good as the first one. It's still a decent film. It is a film I would potentially sit down and watch again. Anything C tier or above and Tasty Trash is something that I would watch again and put on again. Maybe not Cinema Paradiso, but My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 is a movie I would put on and watch again. We have next up The Mighty Max. The Mighty Max is a movie that, wow, I don't like this system. The Mighty Max is a fun, feel-good movie about a basketball team, a female basketball team, based on a true story, but the production value on the film was just very low. And for that reason, it goes a little lower in my book. Now we have Twin Dragons by Jackie Chan, with Jackie Chan. And that film it's a fun film, but it's it's a Hong Kong film, and it is poorly done in terms of the dubbing, and that hurt it a lot in my book. So that is why it goes into the C category. Otherwise, a perfectly fun film to watch. The Addams Family 2 is a film that is a pretty decent sequel, and I think I'm going to put it in Tasty Trash because it's a film that I don't think is particularly the best, but it's still good, and I would definitely put it on to rewatch it. Super Mario Bros. Goes into C category for me. I know it's a film a lot of people liked, and if you liked it, I'm so happy for you. I thoroughly enjoyed it as a one-time watch, but it did not have enough meat on its bones for me. It didn't choose to explore any themes that it had, and that's why it goes into the C tier for me. Next up, we have A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a movie that was good. It wasn't great. And it was messy and sloppy in terms of its in terms of its editing and its pacing. And that's why it goes into the C tier for me. A lot of people said they liked it better than the book, and I'm very happy for them. I did not read the book, so I went into it completely fresh. And the final film in our C tier is The Boy and the Heron, Hayao Miyazaki's latest film, Studio Ghibli. And I didn't feel a cohesive theme in The Boy and the Heron, and that was something that I've always felt was such a strength of Miyazaki's work, is that it meandered, it explored these worlds that it was in, but it always had a theme that it was choosing to explore, and I could not find a cohesive theme in The Boy and the Heron with a good... It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. All right, now we are jumping into our B tier. Our B tier is our biggest category for me. And starting right off, we have Disney's Haunted Mansion. A fun film, nothing too deep, nothing too incredible, nothing too amazing, but a fun film to watch. Next up, we have Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is just a fun horror film set in the ocean. Absolutely a pleasure to watch. Moving on, we now have Murder Mystery. Is a Netflix film, I believe, Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. Really fun film to watch. Nothing that's going to stick with you for too long. My mind's already kind of hazy on the details, and I only watched it a couple months ago. But nevertheless, a fun film. Definitely would sit down and throw it on and rewatch it. Now we have an early 2000s Christmas movie called One Special Night. And this is a film with Julie Andrews and just a lovely little film. It didn't go where I thought it was going to go, but one that I would add to my Christmas list to rewatch every year or every couple of years. Now we have a classic, and that is Kindergarten Cop. Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was just such a fun film to watch. Nothing too deep, nothing too incredible, but a great film to throw on and a classic. I'm sure a lot of people have a very nostalgic connection to this film, and I completely understand why. Now we have Meet the Parents. Meet the Parents is a film that will make you cringe in all the best ways. Ben Stiller is so good at making you cringe and making you just feel exactly how his character is feeling in that moment. And it was definitely a fun film to sit and watch. Next up, we have The Day After Tomorrow. I know some people don't find this to be that great of a film, but I am a huge sucker for films that have a really good message where a father and a son or a daughter end up coming together and having to reconnect. And that was a huge theme in The Day After Tomorrow, was a father who was not the best father having to do everything in his power to go rescue his son. And that, I'm a sucker for those kind of movies, which put The Day After Tomorrow so high up in this list. Now we have Knowing with Nicolas Cage. And this was a fun film. I'd never seen it before. It takes the apocalypse story in quite an interesting way. And truly a fascinating film. It's a review that has taken off quite a bit for me on my TikTok channel, and not quite sure why, but people really loved my review of that. So Knowing is a film that I had not seen before this year, but it was absolutely an interesting one. And now we have Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Machine. I'm sorry, The Man Who Saved the Game. Pinball is a film that has a bit of a special place in my heart because the company that produced it, the Moving Picture Institute, is the first company that I interned for in Hollywood. And I love the people who helped produce this film. And so I was super excited to watch it. And I can honestly say it's a really fun little movie, and it has a great little story to it and a fun piece of history that I did not know existed. Now we have Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. This was such a fun movie this year. I was not expecting this movie, but it's a really cute adventure movie. It's got a lot of nods to fans of Dungeons and Dragons, but it's also not a film that's going to require a ton of knowledge for you to watch. You can still get some of the winks and understand the story if you are a casual D&D fan or if you're not a D&D fan at all, but it'll still be a fun watch for you, and I really appreciated that about this movie. Next up, we have Charade, a film from the 1960s with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. Truly just a really fun film with some excellent dialogue. These two bounced off each other so well. They had so much charisma and so much chemistry on screen that it made this film a joy to watch, along with being a great whodunit. Next up, we have Barbie. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be mad at me for putting Barbie so far down on this list, but I'm not, unlike a lot of people that I've seen this past year talking about Barbie, I'm not in the camp that fully despises the film, and I'm not in the camp of people who think that it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think that it had a really nice story to tell. It had a story that was good, and it just hit a couple of points too too hard on the nose for me, and that docked it a lot for me. Otherwise, I think it could have been an excellent A tier movie or even an S tier film. But because it was so on the nose with a lot of its points, and they just weren't subtle about some things, it had to go down for me because there are so many better ways that they could have done it. Next up is another Christmas film that was a first time watch for me this year, Naughty or Nice. And it's a film about a girl who gets access to Santa's Naughty or Nice list. And she kind of has to learn whether or not she should be doing that and whether or not she can, and how she can really affect people's lives with the knowledge that she possesses. And traditionally, for me, Hallmark films tend not to go too deep on their themes and letting people be bad guys and having to learn from that. But Naughty or Nice really lets the protagonist be a bad person, and we have to understand that and see her transformation from bad to good. And I liked that a lot. And next we have My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the first one. This was such a fun movie, definitely a rewatch for me. I will come back to this movie in the future. Just a classic, had so many great things, and such a fun cast. All right, we are now moving into the A tier films, starting off with Wolfwalkers. Wolfwalkers is an animated film by an Irish animation company. They're a very small studio. This was my first film of theirs. Very interesting, very unique 2D animation, and just a really beautiful and interesting story. If you're interested in checking out any foreign animated films, Wolfwalkers is a great one to start with. Just understand that it's going to have a completely different animation style than what you are probably used to. Next up, we have the classic film The Innocents, which is just a really interesting black and white film about a housekeeper who is keeping an eye on two children that she thinks are possessed and are going crazy. But the film never tells us if she's actually crazy or if the kids are possessed. So it's a really fascinating exploration of that. I recommend checking it out for the cinematography and the direction. All right, moving on, we now have Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. This was an exciting and thrilling action film. Another movie with, a man forced into a father-son dynamic, and he has to kind of learn how to deal with that. And that was really cool. That was really good. I'm excited to watch the second one at some point. It's got a lot to live up to because the first Extraction was very good. Second, now we are into a film that I don't know if a lot of you will have heard before. I had never heard of this film. It is called Alligator. It's on Amazon Prime, and I absolutely thought that this movie was going to be just another B or C rated horror flick with horrible effects. So my friends and I turned it on as a joke, and we were pleasantly surprised that it's actually a really, really fun horror film, kind of in the same vein as Jaws, I would say. It's definitely one to check out if you're a fan of monster films, especially monster films from the 80s. All right, now we have Ticket to Paradise. Ticket to Paradise is a rom-com, George Clooney and Julia Roberts. And really, this film deserves to probably be in like the B or C tier, probably in like low B tier. But because of George Clooney and Julia Roberts, it's pushed up to A tier because the two of them have such incredible chemistry and they really hold this movie together. It's an absolutely fun film to watch. All right, now we have a film from the early 2000s which I had been looking forward to watching for a while, but hadn't got the chance to, In Time. And this was a really interesting dystopian future film where the currency is time and that's how people survive. A little bit by the numbers, but the premise and the uniqueness of the film really held it together for me. All right, moving on to The Bad Guys by DreamWorks. Fun animated film, really cool. It makes the bad guys work for the twist and the premise, and I really love that about this movie. All right, we have a classic film that my roommate showed me. I had never heard of this movie before, and I'm so glad that he showed it to me. Secondhand Lions, which was just a true treasure to watch. A young boy is sent to live with his two eccentric uncles and learns all the stories of them in their youth. And it is just such a lovely little film to watch. Moving on, we have A Haunting in Venice, which is the third film in the Hercule Poirot films based off of the Agatha Christie novels. Honestly, tied with a Murder on the Orient Express for my favorite of them so far. I have not seen the second one. I've heard not to watch the second one, but this one had some really good horror elements to it. A little bit scary. It really didn't let you know what was going on till the end. I really appreciated it about that movie. All right, we have Guardians of the Galaxy 3. This was the only Marvel movie that I went to watch this year. I have fallen off the superhero train so hard. Yes, I do have The Flash on here, and I have Aquaman, but I had a little bit of hope for the DC films, which was they're in tasty trash. It was unfounded. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was James Gunn's third movie, and it was his third movie at Marvel, and it was wonderful. I guess fourth if you're counting the holiday special, but his third like big film, I guess. And it was just excellent. They let him play with it. It was so obvious that it was a film from a different point in time in Marvel's lineup. Great film to watch if you have not watched it so far. Okay, moving on, we have another classic that this was my first year watching. We have Mrs. Doubtfire. Robin Williams, Sally Fields. An excellent, excellent film. Highly recommend checking this out. Another film about a father who is desperately trying to reunite with his kids and stay with them. And it was just a fantastic film for me to watch. All right, we now have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And that is... Hold on, I think I'm missing something here. Ah, yes. We have one more film from the B tier, The Haunted Mansion, Disney classic, great film. Upper B tier for me, good film, great classic watch. All right, moving on, we have Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's animated film Pinocchio. And this was such an incredible film. Guillermo del Toro is such a polarizing filmmaker for me because I love some of his stuff and I hate some of his other stuff. But Pinocchio was a movie that I loved. The animation, the stop motion is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely a great movie to go watch. All right, getting near the top of our A tier, we have a very recent film, The Boys in the Boat. And that was just a great feel-good American classic film about the boys who went to row in the 1936 Olympics in Germany. Really a great film to check out. It's still in theaters, I believe. I would highly recommend watching it in theaters. It's a great theater watch. All right, right above that, we have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Part 1. I think this one is a film that cannot be fully judged until we see Part 2 and we find out what the resolution to the conflict in this movie is. And I'm not sure how I feel about it being a Part 1. I generally am not a fan of Part 1s versus Part 2s because you can't really judge them fully until you've seen both parts. But I really enjoyed Dead Reckoning. I thought it was really unique and interesting in the Mission Impossible franchise. Not as good as several of the other ones, but still an A-tier film. And at the top of the A-tier movies, we have Asteroid City. This was my second Wes Anderson film. Got to see this one in theaters and just So great. An absolute joy to watch this movie. Really, if you like Wes Anderson, you're going to like Asteroid City. The colors in this film are gorgeous. The black and white is wonderful. Cannot speak highly enough of Asteroid City. All right, we are now moving into the S tier films, starting with Lilo and Stitch. I know it's a travesty that I had not seen Lilo and Stitch before this year, but what a great film. Just Disney went for it in the early 2000s with Lilo and Stitch, and they knocked it out of the park, really. It's such a great film that everyone should see at least once. And Lilo and Stitch are just wonderful characters, and I really, really am happy that I got to see this film. Next up, we have The Prince of Egypt, classic from DreamWorks, early 2000s as well. Yes, I had not seen it before this year, or I might have, but I did not remember anything about it, so I consider it a first-time watch for me. Truly a good film, but a film that I wish I had liked more. I wish I had liked more, and I'll leave it at that. Next up, we have 5 films left. RRR. This was my first film from India that I watched, and I don't think there's a better way to introduce yourself to Indian films than through RRR. It is every genre you can think of rolled into one. It's wonderful. It's lovely, action-packed, a musical. It's a comedy, and truly, like, I fell in love with Indian cinema after this, and I'm so excited to continue to delve further into Indian cinema after watching RRR. Now we have Across the Spider-Verse, one of the best animated films of the year, actually the best animated film of the year that I saw at least, and a great sequel, but again, a part 1, so I cannot fully review it and truly think about it completely, similar to Dead Reckoning, so I'll be waiting for the sequel to see how it is. I really wish that the sequel was coming out in 2 months, but chances of that happening are slim and none, so we'll be interested to see where that goes as we continue. Next up, we have my favorite film from 2023, which is Oppenheimer. And I don't think that anyone thought the marriage of the biopic with Christopher Nolan was going to work, or a lot of people were very concerned about how it was going to turn out. But Christopher Nolan really proved that he can do whatever he puts his mind to. And Oppenheimer was a beautiful look into the mind of someone who changed the world. And I think that it was an incredible experience. And I am glad that it connected with Barbie and they had the whole Barbenheimer phenomenon, not only because it was so cool to watch it in that context and kind of have that be a part of the meme, but also because it really helped a lot of people who probably wouldn't have seen Oppenheimer to go watch Oppenheimer. Great film. But there are 2 that I liked better this year. One of those was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I would not have ever expected a DreamWorks to be in the top. Actually, that's not true. I definitely would have expected a DreamWorks film to be in my top 5 movies of the year. But Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is one of my favorite animated films of all time. It hits all of the beats flawlessly. It's gorgeously animated and paced perfectly with incredible villains, incredible characters all throughout. I have 0 complaints about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And finally, we have the #1 film that I saw for the first time in 2023, which was Whiplash. And what an incredible debut film by Damien Chazelle. Truly just a spectacular film with so much passion and so much energy put into it and all the heart and the love put into it. It's an incredible film, and I'm so glad that it was created. So that is it, guys. That is all 52 films that I saw this past year. for the first time. Let me know what you think of my list, what you agree with, what you disagree with in the comments, and suggestions for movies that I should watch this upcoming year in 2024. And I'm already off to a pretty good start. I've got about 7 films. I try and watch about 100 films in a year. That's my goal always, and I want at least half of them to be films that I have never seen before. So this year I managed to hit at least that mark. I fell a little short of the 100 films, but let me know what you think, guys. I'm so excited to continue doing these videos for you. If you have suggestions of videos I should do as well, keep me posted, let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Have a great day.